Chapter 125 just dropped and I absolutely loved it, and why wouldn't I? We had another comeback, a very anticipated backstory, a lot is going on in the background and things are pointing in the direction of another big twist, and I will explain why I think that in today's video. Welcome manga fans for another Attack on Titan video. Before we'll start, let me just remind you all, this video is going to contain manga spoilers for the latest chapter 125, and please consider supporting the creators by purchasing the chapters when they become available online or in paperback. Like always, I'm going to review this chapter, and as we go on, I will pause in special moments that I think need more attention, and when we will finish with the review, we will address the possible twist I mentioned, and also a couple of more interesting things that are forming in the background. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and visit me on any on my other social accounts, and please like this video to let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job. And with that, let's go to our chapter. Our chapter, named Afterglow, begins in Stoes district in Wall Sina. Each and the other military police soldiers are trying to help people that have been caught in the destruction from the Wall Titans march. I mentioned this in my latest video about how many Wall Titans are inside the walls. I talked about the damage to the island itself because of their movements, and I am so happy that Isayama also took this into consideration. Some understand that this is collateral damage, and Eren didn't mean the Titans to hurt all the people on the island, while others accuse Eren for all the destructions and deaths all around. When Hitch sees there is a chance for a riot, she returns to the headquarters to bring weapons and the other recruits. Hitch follows a mysterious water trail marks into a room, and here we get my favorite panel of this chapter, when Annie, that just woke up, grabs her by surprise. Here we can definitely see the difference in size between the two of them, so I guess we can finally say that Annie indeed stayed the same and didn't actually mature inside the crystal. Hitch takes down Annie very easily, telling her she is weak as an old lady, but Annie shows her that she already cut herself and she could transform to a Titan right now if she wanted, and she just wants Hitch to listen to her. When someone knocks on the door, Hitch decides to let Annie explain, and they both fled to the stable. One thing here, I don't think that Annie could have actually transformed in that exact moment, because she is inside a closed space without any sunlight, and we can remember she didn't want to go underground with Armin in the first season as well, probably because of the same reason. I think that Annie guessed that Hitch doesn't know that. In the stables, Annie admits that she has been conscious all this time, for 4 years, what felt to her like a faint dream. She could hear Hitch and Armin's voices talking to her in the distance, and when she couldn't hear them, she was stuck at the same darkness. This is also the reason why she is up to date with this entire situation, and also she heard Eren's message, so she knows what is going on. If you ask me, I guess what Annie felt all this time was something similar to what the Wall Titans have been feeling for years, stuck inside the same crystal, unable to move, only they are inside a Titan form, which might be even worse. Hitch and Annie ride together and watch the mess around, and Hitch reminds her of the time the female Titan destroyed the city. She then asks her how did it feel to take all those lives back then, and Annie answers that back then none of this crossed her mind, because she was taught that after crossing the front line, killing soldiers and civilians was fine and even was something to be praised for, and that every action is justified in order to atone the sins of Eldia. A little side note here, this kind of Marley style brainwashing actually happened in our world not once. For example, during the Crusades, the old Catholic Church gave the soldiers a free hand to do anything they pleased by letting them believe they are doing God's work. So this scenario that Annie is describing is not so far-fetched, and we also heard Gabby talks the same way before. Annie tells Hitch that she was never interested in things like saving the world, and right here and there we get one of the most anticipated backstories in Attack on Titan, as we discover for the first time some more details about her origin. Annie was abandoned right after birth. Her parents, apparently, were an Eldian father, while her mother was from Marley or some other place in the world. Annie was given to an Eldian who came from another country, with a single objective, to train her to get into the warriors program, and by that he will also get all the privileges that families of warriors get. Before she was even old enough to understand her place in the world, this man had already drilled into her some hand-to-hand combat technique from his homeland, making her go through countless training, only interested in her becoming a warrior. As she grew up, she became as strong as the man wanted, and she got back with him for all the punishments he made her go through, and she left him in a state that he would never be able to walk straight again. But after she hurt him, the man laughed and said that now she can kill any enemy, even if she doesn't have any weapons. From that day, she lost the value for other people's lives, and even for her own. Nothing really mattered to her. That is, until the day she left for Paradise Island, when the man came to her and apologized for everything he did to her, and that the only thing he wants now is to see her come back home. That day, she finally saw this man as her father, because she saw he thought of her as his own daughter. She says that she just wants to go back to her father. She does understand that she did horrible things, but if it is to go back to her father, she would have done this all over again. Hitch tells her that she is glad she could hear that, but she reminds Annie that by looking at the Titans, her father on Marley is doomed to die. Stick around after this review because I want to talk more about Annie's backstory. From Annie and Hitch, we go to Liberio on Marley, where Annie's father along with the other Eldians are trying to convince the Marleyan guards that they are all in danger. The guards refuse to believe them, claiming that this is some way for them to escape. Things get escalated and the soldiers threaten to arrest them all. Mr. Leonhardt remembers Annie, promising to come back home, and we see him attacking one of the guards. I really hope that this will develop into some kind of uprising inside Liberio, and not just ending with Annie's father getting a bullet to his brain. From there, we go to Keith Shadis and the cadets. He tells them that the Jaegerists currently have the support of the population, and that they would surely take control of the island soon. And for him, someone from the older generation, there is no longer a place here. The cadets tell him that he is the reason they are all still alive, and they tell him they will protect him no matter what. To that, he tells them that they are all fools, and that he only let the Jaegerists beat him up before to show them they should not oppose them for now. They should protect themselves and be part of the system. However, he tells them there will be a day they should have to take a stand. But until then, they should not lose sight of themselves. This situation kinda reminds me of Grisha and the Restorationists on Marley, which also had to live quietly under Marley's control but not lose sight of themselves and wait for the day to act. Only now, this situation is about to repeat itself on Paradise Island, and again we see the motive of history repeating itself in Attack on Titan. From the cadets, we go to Armin and Mikasa, when Armin is preparing to go and find Connie before he feeds Falco to his mom. When Mikasa asks what is he going to say to him, he tells her that he is going to explain to Connie that if he does this, he will create a new generation of fighting over control of Titans against the warriors. Only now, it will be on their island. He also going to tell him that even as a Titan, his mother is fine as she is. Mikasa, which looks completely lost, asks Armin what should she do, and he tells her she needs to think for herself for once. But when she asks what they should do about Eren, Armin completely snaps at her, telling her there is nothing they can do about it anyways. He tells her that the chain of command is completely gone, Levi and Hanji may have been killed, that Annie is probably back, and basically every other scenario that is going to go wrong very soon. So they have no time to think about Eren right now. Mikasa, looking sad as hell, tells him she is sorry, and Armin admits, for the second time since the time on the roof, that if Erwin was here, things would have been different, and that he should have lived that day instead of Armin. And with that, he leaves Mikasa in the room when she realizes her scarf is missing. Thinking back, we can assume Louise took it, if you go back to this panel. And also, I really feel sorry for Mikasa. I think that by now she can't even mention Eren's name without being slapped in the face with a slave label by the entire fandom. And honestly, I truly believe she simply misses her friend. We go then to the Blouse family and Gabi, who is preparing to go after Connie and Falco as well. Kaya still calls her Mia. Gabi tells her that her real name is Gabi, and Kaya responds that Gabi is a strange name and Mia is better. They both say goodbye, and we go to Jean, Floch and the volunteers. We see Jean yelling at Floch not to shoot, and we see one of the volunteers wounded on the floor. Here we get another twist when Floch informs everyone that he has been working with Eren on this plan for 10 months. Now, I don't know why from all people Eren would have picked to trust Floch with his plan, so tell me in the comments, do you think Floch is telling the truth? Floch tells everyone that he and some of his friends helped Eren, and now that all the world is about to be destroyed, the volunteers have lost their dream to restore their homelands, but they have a choice now to join the Eldian Empire from now on. At that point, the wounded soldier on the ground starts yelling at Floch, and Floch shoots him through his head without even thinking about it. At that point, Mikasa also joins Jean, just as Floch explains to him that he is now Eren's representative on this island, and that he will eradicate all hate from this island while Eren solves all the problem outside of it. He tells Jean that they are all finally free now, free to stop fighting and free to do whatever they want. And when Jean asks him if it's really over, Floch tells him that it's indeed over and that Jean could now go back to being his old self, like the arrogant bastard he once was. From this remark, we can clearly see that Floch doesn't like Jean at all, and before Jean can answer back, Mikasa asks Floch about Hanji and Levi, and Floch tells her that Zeke killed them both. From there, we go to Connie and Falco on a joyride towards Ragako village. Falco is under the impression that Connie saved him, and while Connie thinking of his family and how he promised them to come back home, Falco thanks him for going through all of this trouble just for him. Falco is glad that Mr. Connie is a good person, and of course, he lost his memories since he inherited the Jaws Titan, but he doesn't know this yet. He also has a feeling that he saw Connie before, and he is absolutely right. He saw him in the airship after Gabi shot Sasha, but again, he doesn't remember this. And from there, we go to Pieck and Magath looking at all the Titans and talking about going back to Marley and try to warn them, but they both also agree they don't even have a plan to handle this situation. And in that moment, we see someone walking in the distance, and we see Hanji. She begs them not to eat her, because she has no weapons on her, and when she is asked who is with her in their wagon, she tells them they don't need to worry. This is only a harmless man who failed to die. And we finally get to see Levi again, who still looks unconscious, but at least alive. And this is where our chapter ends. And look at the writing at the end. A soldier shall not die until he has given meaning to his life. What tells me Levi still has one major thing left to do, at least, maybe killing Zeke, or maybe something else. And now, let me point out some very important things in this chapter that really makes it smart, in my opinion. First, notice that Isayama is trying to show us that a little microcosmos of the world conflict is forming all over again, only now it's just happening on this island. We can see it from Armin's claim that a new war for Titans will form against the warriors because of Connie's actions. And then from Keith Shadis telling the cadets to wait for the right moment, literally telling them to form some kind of resistance, just like we saw Grisha and the other restorationists on Marley. And of course, Floch, who now wants to eradicate all hate from this island, but who will decide who is evil? That is a huge problem. And we also see factions forming against and pro Eren. We can actually see the world conflict copying itself to the small island. Second thing, notice that for the first time our group is separated completely. Eren is God knows where, Armin is about to meet with Connie, Falco and Gabi in Ragako village, and Mikasa and Jean are at the command center. I think this is the first time all of them were completely separated with actual distances between them, so I thought it was worth mentioning. And finally, why I think there is another twist coming. In one word, Annie, and I will explain. Take a look at her past. We see that her mother's lover was Eldian, but we don't know anything about the mother. But we do see that someone actually went to great lengths to make sure that Annie will survive and maintain a certain purpose. Now, why do you think that is? I mean, why not kill the child? My guess is that the parents had some influence if the baby was kept alive, and it has the same vibe like Historia's past, when she was sent to another household only to be kept until she is needed. What I'm trying to say is that is still a mystery behind her past, and if you pair this with the fact she was frozen for 8 years in the manga, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have seen something quite like this in other animes. And because of that, and also because of much more I talked about in my Annie video, I believe Isayama kept Annie away from this story for a final big twist, and if not, her character is wasted, and I really can't believe Isayama would do something like that. If you enjoyed this video, my friends, don't forget to subscribe and to drop a little like to let me know you enjoyed it. And that is all for today, my Titan-loving friends. And as usual, I would love hearing from you in the comments or on my other social accounts, and I will link everything in the description. Thank you so much for joining me today, and until next time, let me just remind you all to dedicate your hearts for humanity, inside and outside the walls.